Hello and welcome to Mass Video Gamer, where today we're taking a look at the PC Engine. Now, you may commonly know this as the Turbografx 16, as that is what it was called when it was released here in the States, but in Japan, it's a whole different story. And today, on its 30th anniversary this year, we're going to take a look at that amazing little system. The history of NEC is something that you have to take a look at before you go ahead and even begin to talk about the PC Engine. NEC, or Nippon Electric Company, was founded in the 20th century early on, and they really were just making telecommunications, telephone stuff. However, after the Nintendo Famicom came out in Japan, many different companies that have never even been in the console business before now want to get into the console business because of the success of the Nintendo Famicom. After the runaway success of the Nintendo Famicom, many other companies decided that they also wanted to cash in on this, what seemed like, cash crop. NEC realized that they wanted to get in on there too, however, they needed some people with experience, and that's where the partnership came in. Hudson Soft just happened to be looking to also get into the console business. Now, Hudson Soft was a game developers that were originally developed for the Famicom and other systems, and they continue to even after supporting NEC. With that partnership, that union between NEC and Hudson Soft, they're going to light the world on fire with the little engine that could, NEC's PC Engine. When the PC Engine released October 30th, 1987, it was a huge success in Japan. It was a unique shape. The PC Engine was relatively small, at only 14 centimeters by 14 centimeters by 3.8 centimeters, making this still the smallest major home game console ever made. And they also used something called Hue Cards to go for their games. Now, Hue Cards, or if you're in the US, Turbo Chips, are chip-on-board media. So instead of using cartridges like many systems did that in the day, they used these boards with chips on them that were very thin. And what they would do is they would plug in right into the pins, and you'd be playing away in no time. What's interesting, of course, is the specs of the PC Engine. It has a custom-built dual 16-bit graphic processor that allowed the PC Engine to display an amazing amount of arcade-quality visuals. Remarkably, it also was technically an 8-bit system, even though it's marketed as a 16-bit system. The CPU is 8-bit. Again, many wondered, why call it 16-bit? And of course, back then, they were the bit wars, where different systems showcased how many bits they had. The more bits, the better graphics, the better the game, is what was the thought process. And of course, as this is more powerful than the Nintendo Famicom, or the NES here in the States, it still is not in the same league as true 16-bit consoles such as Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive, which again, here is Sega Genesis. What also made the PC Engine very successful is the fact that it had many third-party supporters, something that other consoles struggled with. And when they went ahead and got Sega on board, yes, Sega made games for the NEC, their competition. Games such as Afterburner 2, Space Harrier, Outrun, and even Fantasy Zone. Those games became wildly successful on the system and truly helped drive the sales in Japan. With a really successful launch out of the way, NEC would go about creating some more hardware updates. And that's really what they're known for too, is that they're going to take their simple PC Engine and they're going to go ahead and transform it by creating a CD add-on for the system, which was revolutionary for the time as CDs were new to the market for video games. But you also had to have a Hue card in order to play those CD games, and that was a CD-Rom Hue card. Now, this became a little difficult, as of course, if you didn't have the card, you couldn't run the CD system. However, they're going to solve that when they release the PC Engine Duo. Now, the PC Engine Duo still went ahead and had the CD and the Hue card capabilities, but now it was all in one system, and the card was essentially built into that system. When it was built into the system, you no longer needed that card. What's amazing is how much this sold. And in addition, they continue to revamp that hardware, releasing the PC Engine Duo R and the PC Engine Duo RX with small enhancements such as better capacitors, as well as a different controller layout for the RX. What's amazing is these are the best systems, the PC Engine Duo R and the PC Duo RX. These two are some of the most reliable of the systems and definitely put out a great amount of quality when it comes to the picture. What NEC tried to do was to keep on ahead technologically from the big boy on the block, the Nintendo Famicom. And that's what they did with the CD-ROMs. Now, adding CD-ROM, they added a whole new way to have music and games with the larger space on the CD. Now, the issue was, of course, this was very unproven at this point in 1989. And so they really were taking a risk here, but it was a risk that paid off. Now, they looked forward to going ahead and releasing this system in the West. And they did so as the Turbografx 16. Now, the Turbografx 16 does end up being the third runner-up in the race that was between Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and the Turbografx. Why? Well, the reason is really truly because of the games and the price. Although NEC had a great library in Japan of the games, that library didn't translate so well here in the West. In addition, it was expensive. Though the base system itself was pretty feasible at $199, the CD add-on was $400, which was very expensive for the time, as it was new technology. What's even more interesting is, of course, the release date. When it released here in 1989, what ended up happening was it released right before the Sega Genesis was going to take off across the US. And that really did hurt it. It really was the timing as well. In addition, Nintendo had dominance over third-party developers. And of course, a lot of American software companies were kind of fearful that, of course, if they went ahead and, turned their back on Nintendo, they may not have continued success on the other platforms, and may anger Nintendo. Now, as the Turbografx 16 suggests, it marketed itself as a 16-bit console, which would make it double the bits of a Nintendo, which was 8-bit. However, it wasn't entirely true. As we said earlier, it's a 16-bit GPU, a 16-bit graphics processor, and that's what they were actually trying to showcase. The 8-bit CPU truly wasn't that much more powerful than the Nintendo's was. Soon NEC will start experimenting with getting their own mascot, similar to Mario was to Nintendo and Sonic was to the Genesis. Their mascot will become Bonk, and Bonk will find success on other systems as well, including the Nintendo. Turbografx had only sold 750,000 units in the US by March in 1991, which was a far cry from the projected 2 million they would sell by then. Those numbers, NEC was struggling with the Turbografx 16 here in the West, yet in Japan the PC Engine was taking off. Now, NEC and Hudson Soft didn't stop there. They're going to release the Supergraphics, which again will go ahead and not only play the Turbografx 16 games, but also go further with the graphics. In addition, they're going to later introduce the PCFX in Japan only, and this was made as a successor to the PC Engine. And this is going to be a 32-bit console. However, that even in Japan didn't do very well, and eventually the two companies are going to part ways. NEC is going to go ahead and provide support for the Dreamcast. Well, Hudson Soft is going to be making software, great games, until 2011 when Konami finally buys it. Such an interesting little system that had such an interesting history. Friends have asked which of these systems to buy and what I recommended today, and my answer is simple. Absolutely. Although the Turbografx 16 is region locked, meaning you cannot play PC Engine games on it without a mod, I would go more for the PC Engine because the library is so much bigger, especially because you can get systems like this, the PC Engine Duo R, which has better capacitors than the Turbo Duo. In addition, can play the CD games without the card. In addition, the Turbografx 16 only outputted RF video. You'd have to get the Turbo Booster or Turbo Booster Plus, which the Turbo Booster Plus went ahead and added a memory card, if you will, memory storage onto the system. Both are going to add AV output, something that should have been standard. But again, the PC Engine Duo R has AV output standard. Now, unfortunately, NEC did not make these with RGB in mind. But that's okay. They're very simple to mod to RGB. In addition, if you wanted to region mod it as well, you could. With the region-free mod, you can play both Turbografx 16 and PC Engine Hue Cards, making it a very versatile system. Between that and the RGB mods that are very common with this system, it does make this system pretty incredible. The footage you've seen throughout this video is RGB through the FrameMeister. The controllers that they came with all had turbo functions. Hence, when it came out here in the US, it was called the Turbografx 16. They all had 2-button controllers, with the exception of the Duo RX, which had a 6-button controller standard. However, different makers such as Hori went ahead and created 6-button controllers for the system to make things like playing Street Fighter II Championship Edition much easier, which, mind you, is one of the best ports of the game. In Japan, this little system was a true rival to the Nintendo Famicom. However, in the United States, it has become a forgotten console. But today, as we look back on it, we can enjoy all that it had to offer. We'll see you next time.